Today we're diving into the explosive report just released by the U.S. House of Representatives Ethics Committee on Representative Matt Gaetz. Buckle up, because this story has everything. Allegations of sexual misconduct, drug use, misuse of resources, and even attempts to obstruct justice. Let's break it all down for you here on this episode of Guns and Gadgets. Let's first take a moment to thank the sponsor of the video, that's SDI. With millions of new gun owners in the country, the time has never been better to learn how to be a gunsmith. The Sonoran Desert Institute can help. They offer classes on online firearms technology, hands-on labs and materials are shipped right to your door. Course topics range from armorers classes, ballistics, shooting sports management, and much more. It's an online college. Get all your education, and you can turn your passion for firearms into a successful career. Check out sdi.edu/GNG to learn more and start today. All right, guys, this all began back in April of 2021 when the committee announced its investigation into then Representative Matt Gaetz after media reports surfaced alleging that he engaged in illegal activities ranging from sex trafficking to drug use. But things were put on hold as the Department of Justice stepped in with its own review. Fast forward to 2024, and the Ethics Committee resumed their probe, and here is what they found. In sum, the committee found substantial evidence of the following. From at least 2017 to 2020, Representative Gaetz regularly paid women for engaging in sexual activity with him. In 2017, Representative Gaetz engaged in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl. During the period from 2017 to 2019, Representative Gaetz used or possessed illegal drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy, on multiple occasions. Representative Gaetz accepted gifts, including transportation and lodging, in connection with a 2018 trip to the Bahamas in excess of permissible amounts. In 2018, Representative Gaetz arranged for his chief of staff to assist a woman with whom he engaged in sexual activity in obtaining a passport, falsely indicating to the U.S. Department of State that she was a constituent. Representative Gaetz knowingly and willfully sought to impede and obstruct the committee's investigation of his conduct. Representative Gaetz has acted in a manner that reflects discreditability upon the House of Representatives. Now, based on what I just mentioned, the committee concluded there was substantial evidence that Representative Matt Gaetz violated House rules, state and federal laws, and other standards of conduct prohibiting prostitution, statutory rape, illicit drug use, acceptance of impermissible gifts, the provision of special favors and privileges, and obstruction of Congress. The committee did not find sufficient evidence to conclude that Representative Matt Gaetz violated the federal sex trafficking statute. Although Representative Gaetz did cause the transportation of women across state lines for purposes of commercial sex, the committee did not find evidence that any of those women were under 18 at the time of travel, nor did the committee find sufficient evidence to conclude that the commercial sex acts were induced by force, fraud, or coercion. Now, while the committee considered whether to establish an investigative subcommittee to consider sanctions against Representative Gaetz, the committee ultimately determined that it would not risk the further victimization of the women involved in this matter. Most of the women with whom the committee spoke also gave statements to the Department of Justice and urged the committee to rely on those statements in lieu of requiring them to relive their experience. They were particularly concerned with providing additional testimony about a sitting congressman in light of the DOJ's lack of action on their prior testimony. The Department of Justice refused to provide the relevant statements and other significant evidence to the committee. The DOJ cited internal policies about protecting uncharged subjects like Representative Gaetz and general concerns about how the DOJ's cooperation with the committee may deter other victims in other matters and various inapposite policies relating to congressional oversight of the DOJ itself. Now, DOJ's initial deferral request and subsequent lack of cooperation with the committee's review caused significant delays in this investigation. Those delays were compounded by what the committee says is Representative Matt Gaetz' obstructive efforts. The committee has determined that its findings must be released without further impediments. The committee's record shows that shortly after he was sworn into Congress in 2017, Representative Matt Gaetz became friends with Mr. Greenberg, who had also recently taken office as the Seminole County, Florida tax collector. According to Mr. Greenberg, the two met at the house of Christopher Dorworth, a Florida lobbyist. Now, Mr. Greenberg and Representative Gaetz frequently attended parties and other gatherings with young women in attendance. Many of those women were initially contacted by Mr. Greenberg via the website seekingarrangement.com, which is now called seeking.com, and Mr. Greenberg subsequently introduced the women to Representative Matt Gaetz. Now, that website advertised itself as a, quote, sugar dating, end quote, website that primarily connected older men and younger women seeking, quote, mutually beneficial relationships, end quote. The report says that the website was generally understood by many of the women interviewed by the committee to involve, at a minimum, an exchange of companionship for money. There have been prosecutions against individuals for sex trafficking that originated with contacts made through seekingarrangement.com or similar websites, and some have called for the website to be shut down due to its facilitation of prostitution. Platforms such as seeking.com are known to make it easier for traffickers to exploit victims and connect with buyers. The committee did not receive any evidence that Representative Matt Gaetz had his own account on seekingarrangement.com, and Mr. Greenberg indicated he frequently showed the site to Representative Gaetz and that he provided his login credentials to Representative Matt Gaetz. According to Mr. Greenberg, he and Matt Gaetz would split the costs of drugs, hotels, and girls. For example, the committee reviewed evidence that such activity occurred in July of 2017. Specifically, evidence showed that Representative Matt Gaetz, Mr. Greenberg, and others gathered at a rental property located in the Brickell neighborhood of Miami, Florida, for a weekend beginning on July 7th of 2017. Representative Gaetz and Mr. Greenberg also spent time in Fort Lauderdale during the Miami stay, during which time Representative Gaetz withdrew at least $1,200 in cash from 3 different accounts at a single ATM. On June 22, 2017, Representative Matt Gaetz paid $6,308 for that rental booking. On July 9th of 2017, Mr. Greenberg paid Representative Gaetz $1,600 by check. Mr. Greenberg stated the check was reimbursement for a share of the rental. Greenberg also noted that they met up with another individual for dinner that weekend, and he shared a photo of Representative Gaetz himself and the other individual on social media on July 8th of 2017. Now, the committee received evidence confirming that Gaetz at times personally made payments to women who attended parties with him and Greenberg using various peer-to-peer electronic payment services as well as checks and cash. The committee's record also indicates that Mr. Greenberg sometimes paid women for having sex with Representative Gaetz and was sometimes reimbursed by Representative Gaetz himself. Witnesses indicated that there were times where a lump sum would be sent to one woman who would then distribute that money evenly among others who attended the parties. Likewise, in one instance, Representative Matt Gaetz sent $400 to Mr. Greenberg with a note, quote, hit up, and we'll leave her down as victim A, end quote. Greenberg then sent 2 women payments totaling $400, including victim A. On August 19th of 2020, Mr. Greenberg was indicted on charges related to his misuse of motor vehicle records and identification documents in his role as Seminole County tax collector and his attempt to falsely accuse a political opponent of being a pedophile. He was additionally charged with sex trafficking of a child who was victim A, wire fraud, bribery of a public official, theft of government property, and related charges. He pleaded guilty to 6 charges, including sex trafficking of victim A, in May of 2021, but his sentencing was delayed until December 2022 due to his ongoing cooperation in several other matters. As part of his cooperation, he provided information that was ultimately corroborated and ended in successful prosecutions. Now, the following chart summarizes payments made by Representative Gaetz to Greenberg and to women via peer-to-peer payment platforms or checks, and this is taken right from the report. You can see recipient woman number 1, which was a former girlfriend. She was paid $63,863.58 during the time frame of 2017 to 2020. Woman 2 got $4,189.82 from 2019 to 2020, and the list goes on and on. Now, we know that Matt Gaetz resigned from Congress on November 14th, 2024, after being nominated by Donald Trump to be his Attorney General of the United States. But just like 2 weeks later, he withdrew his candidacy. Now, that was right around the time that a hacker revealed that they had obtained the testimony of the alleged 17-year-old victim in this case, and that they would release it. So what's next for Matt Gaetz? The committee usually doesn't release findings after a member resigns from Congress, but this time they said the public had a right to know. Their report paints a damning picture of misconduct and abuse of power. Yet, it is important to note that Matt Gaetz denies the allegations, dismissing them as politically motivated attacks. I also want to ask you, do you think it's that far of a stretch to think that the committee released this report to keep pressure on Matt Gaetz, who just last week indicated that he might come back to Congress on January 3rd since he did win his re-election bid? Remember that Matt Gaetz angered many people and made some strong political enemies when he made the successful push to remove then Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, from his leadership role. What do you guys and gals think? Should Matt Gaetz face further consequences, or is this all a witch hunt? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more updates on this and other breaking stories. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you on the next time here on Guns and Gadgets. Take care, America.